In this video, we're going to talk about the immigrant experience of doing HR. We're going to focus on Canada, but I'm sure the learnings will apply to other countries. I get contacted quite a bit from immigrants, either those who are already in Canada or who are planning on coming. So that's all coming up right now. Hi there, I'm Andrea Adams, the host of HR Shop Talk. On the show, you get expert insight into all things HR. I encourage you to subscribe to the show or podcast to keep learning from my guests. Today, my guest is Bina Kamath. Bina is an HR manager. She's also the CEO and founder of Orion's Reach, which is a nonprofit focused on inclusive mentorship. She is, as I said, an immigrant to Canada, and she's going to share some of the things she's learned as she's developed a successful HR career. Hi, Bina. How are you?
I'm good, Andrea. Thanks for having me.
Well, thank you. And I'm so fascinated by this. Yesterday, actually, I was looking at a LinkedIn post about a fellow who had gotten on taxis, an HR leader, gotten on a taxi, and there was a guy in there who had HR experience 4 years, but in the Middle East somewhere, and was struggling to find a job, an HR job in Canada. And so I'm hoping that this episode will have some insight for him and other people like him, because, I personally don't like to hear those stories. But first question here, why don't you just tell us a bit about your journey coming to Canada, focusing on how you got a job in HR and what you needed to learn to be effective?
Thinking back, my journey as HR leader started very young, right in school, where it dawned upon me that, that was my calling. I was really young. I didn't quite focus on it, but I was called upon by my principal to tutor, children who were struggling in certain subjects after school. And the immense pleasure and sense of accomplishment that I received when I helped them succeed was enormous. So, that kind of piqued my interest or sparked that flame, which I had for teaching others, coaching, mentoring. So it started back then. Mm-hmm. My journey as an HR leader in Canada was by fluke.
Oh no! Hopefully there's some learnings there so that other people can make it happen without being a fluke.
So what happened is it started off as a coverage for a person on leave in a recruitment role. Okay. And my background is accounting. I have my bachelor's in commerce with a focus on accounting and marketing. So when I did that, I wasn't expecting to land a job in HR. Mm-hmm. And, I was second guessing myself. I said, I have no experience, would I be able to pull this off? And I was, and I thought I did pretty okay. And when I came to Canada, my husband introduced me to some of his colleagues at work, who had partners in HR, and I even spoke to the VP of HR. So, with his employer, and that gave me a lot of really good insight into why I wanted to pursue HR as a career. So I took that time. My kids were very young, so focusing on my kids, getting them settled in a new country was paramount and was very, very important to me. So at that time, I decided not to pursue employment, decided to be a stay-at-home mom, and then pursue my second degree in HR. I did it with two young kids, a partner who was, trying to prove himself, just starting his career here in oil and gas, and taking evening classes 7 to 10. And it took me 5 years to complete my degree, but I did it in HR. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's when it started. And after that,
is that something you would recommend, that, even if you have a degree in HR from another country, would you recommend, boosting it with a diploma from a Canadian organization, like a college or university or whatever?
If you already have a degree in HR, it's not required. but familiarizing yourself with Canadian regulations, federal and provincial, in terms of, employment standards, or human rights, labor law. What are some of the HR principles? That's important. So it doesn't have to be a certificate or a diploma, but doing some of your own research or doing some short courses, that wouldn't hurt. But going back to school to pursue a whole degree is not required. Right. Because HR is HR. Doesn't matter where, because people are people, no matter where you go.
You say it's HR is HR, people are people. What about the impact of culture? Culture has to have an impact on how you do HR from one country to another.
Absolutely. And, I think it brings diversity of thought, and it just lends itself to innovation. It tunes into the inclusivity in the workplace. Mm-hmm. I don't know, you think of different ways to manage similar situations, like conflicts or difficult situations. It helps just broaden your skill set.
So if you think about you starting off a journey in HR in Canada, what was the hardest part for you?
The hardest part for me was getting my foot in the door. Oh. How do I prove my worth? Right. How do I prove myself? How do I get the spotlight? How do I showcase my skills when nobody gives me a chance?
Right.
Because you don't have the Canadian experience.
Right. So, okay. Two questions here then. How did you overcome getting your foot in the door? How did you get your foot in the door? How did you overcome this lack of Canadian experience?
My first job was a recruitment administrator.
Right.
I completed my second degree, and my husband was employed at Suncor.
Okay.
And he said, he talked to the HR department and said, "Hey, have a look. She's really good. Not just saying that because she's my wife."
Right.
But, he said, "Well, I've talked to them. It's up to them. No pressure. I mean, they'll do an interview, and that is totally up to you how you do in the interview. So that's on you." Okay. So they called me for an interview, and I was offered the role.
Then you've got Canadian experience after that. If you think about some people, your husband, it seems, had some connections. There are lots of immigrants who come to Canada. They don't have connections. How, what could they do?
I would say, first of all, never lose hope. Be bold. Back when I started, social media wasn't a thing.
Right.
Now, network. It's your new superpower. Yes. Be present on social media platforms and present yourself professionally. Mm. Reach out to individuals on LinkedIn. Don't be shy, and ask poignant questions. Is there an opportunity? What can I do? Ask people who've traveled that path. How did you do it? For the longest time, even years ago, when my husband said, I'll talk to HR, I said, no, I want to get it on my own merit. He's like, okay, then fine. It'll take your time. So he said, it's up to you. And then I thought, what's the harm? Yeah. He's just a medium.
Yeah.
And that's the advice I give all my mentees, everybody at work as well. Leverage your contacts.
Yeah.
Gone are the days where you apply to a job and then, pray. Because you're one resume amongst so many, why would they pick you?
Right.
Because unless you have a conversation, someone says, you need to speak to this person, a resume doesn't tell the whole story. So leverage your contacts. Don't be shy.
That's great advice, whether you're an immigrant or not. So this is I'm gonna make a terrible generalization here. It's almost embarrassing how bad it's going to be. But anyway, if you want to think about immigrants as a group, which maybe we should or shouldn't do, but what kind of assets do they bring? Because my experience as an immigration officer early in my working life, I saw a lot of assets, bravery and all of these other things. But anyways, how do you see it?
I see, like I said before, diversity of thought, diverse ideas, different ways of dealing with similar situations.
Yes.
And their culture, their background, that also shapes your perspective.
Mm-hmm.
So just having a different perspective, helps immensely.
Yeah. Has it helped you?
It has. Absolutely, it has.
Yeah.
In my career, it has helped me tremendously. I did not work in HR prior to starting a career in HR. So which was good and bad. Good as in I had no frame of reference, bad as in I had no frame of reference.
Right.
So I could definitely have transferable skills. I do have transferable skills. I worked in accounting, and I have, similar, I had similar experiences, but not with people per se.
Right.
So it was different experiences. So I could draw on those experiences to contribute in HR,
Mm-hmm.
And also cultural understanding. I'm originally from India. So, having that cultural background also helped me understand immigrants, also individuals, from representing different ethnicities.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I had that respect for individuals, and when they bring their authentic selves, and to respect people for who they are, regardless of of how they identify themselves.
So as an immigrant, what was, and you finally got your first job, what was the hardest part of doing HR for you?
The hardest part of doing HR was, I think, assimilating into, the work culture.
Oh,
That was a little bit, it was challenging. There were stereotypes.
oh,
There were misconceptions, myths.
yes.
And, individuals saying, well, like, how do you speak English so fluently? Or you look exotic. Where are you from? I can't place you. Why do you need to place me at all? So there were some stereotypes that I had to deal with, but you either learn to deal with them or you ignore them.
Right.
And then of course there's more awareness now. This is,
Yeah.
talking years ago.
Yes.
So there is definitely more awareness now. There is education. So I don't foresee the same challenges.
If you found this interesting or it caused some hope for you, subscribe to see all the episodes and comment. I'm sure there are lots of immigrants out there who have done what Bina has done, at least to some degree, and have their own experiences. Please share with us in the comment section. What kind of expectations should new immigrants have about finding work in Canada, or maybe it's another country, but anyways?
I think it's really important to be confident in your ability. Requiring the Canadian experience, don't let that be a deterrent.
Okay.
Own your accent, own your culture. A stereotype is, if you're an immigrant, you're not fluent in English. You could have an accent but still be fluent.
Yeah.
So, and that should never be a deterrent. Own it, be comfortable in your own skin. Do not be averse to upgrading your skills.
Mm-hmm.
If you need to, be open to going back to school to upgrade your skills, language skills, if you need it. If you're not proficient in English and you think language is a barrier or could be a barrier, go ahead and pursue some of those courses that will help you bridge the gap.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I think don't be hung up on titles. That's something that I see quite a bit.
Okay.
I was a manager or a director in my home country, and I'm not going to settle for anything less.
Uh-huh.
Director in your home country could be totally different from a director in Canada.
Mm-hmm.
Or depending even on organization.
Yeah.
Titles don't mean anything. You might deprive yourself of a great opportunity just because you're so hung up on a title.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, you want to prove yourself, and to prove yourself, you need to get your foot in the door.
Yeah. And I would think that if you've got great skill set, that, you might start low but progress really fast. I mean, the possibility is there.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So again, generalizing, and imagining that an immigrant is coming into an interview, how should they be pitching themselves at that interview?
So I think that it's very important to showcase your transferable skills. You may not have Canadian experience, but talk about real life experiences, as in, how you dealt with conflicts. Have you, what are some of your coping skills? How do you have those critical conversations or those crucial conversations?
Right.
Give examples of projects that you've, designed, implemented, executed. Mm-hmm. Also, how you're an excellent team player, how you can be collaborative, you have an open mindset. That doesn't change. Doesn't matter if you worked in the US, UK, India, Canada. If you have a collaborative mindset, you have a collaborative mindset. That's not going to change. Doesn't matter where you work. So those kind of examples are really important, especially for any opportunity in HR.
Right.
Because, you're dealing with people. No two people are created the same.
Mm-hmm. Right. And so once someone has a job, I imagine some unexpected challenges are going to arise. I mean, this happens in every job, but it might happen more for an immigrant or not. I don't know. What were some of the unexpected challenges you faced?
Some unexpected challenges, I would say, like I mentioned before, experiencing some stereotypes. Those were some unexpected challenges. And then just getting used to the Canadian way of doing things, especially disciplinary process was quite different. So every organization has their own, disciplinary matrix or process. So learning, new ways of doing things. I wouldn't say it was challenging, but it was a bit of a learning curve. Mm-hmm. Because theory is completely different from practical, where you're applying, your theoretical knowledge and into real life situations.
Right. Yeah. What I would add about the theory is that the theory is great. And even if you learn that well, there is still just so many detailed questions to ask about where each situation fits within the theory.
That's great.
That can just feel exhausting. But you said something about, it was, you were surprised by learning the Canadian way of doing things, particularly around discipline. Can you reflect on any other Canadian ways of doing things?
Yes. So even with, providing feedback, so that is where there's cultural differences. And I do see that even with my team members. Some of them, when they come from a culture that's pretty candid and blunt and straightforward, there's no, sugarcoating, or there's no mincing words.
Right.
Then you have to adjust to a different style of communicating.
So in Canada, do we mince words and we're very careful when we're giving feedback?
Yeah, I think so. There is, it's sort of known in the world that, it's, that Canadians are very polite.
Right.
And I'm a proud Canadian. So right. I totally, I'm here, and, very polite, and, they don't like to offend other people. So sometimes it gets in the way of performance. Right. When it's not straightforward, it's not clear. I've been to Europe. I did a short stint there, so it's very, very straightforward. Right. So interesting. So even in India, so that required a bit of an adjustment. Huh. So, well, you have to tone that back. You can provide feedback, but it shouldn't come across as as offending or offensive. I didn't personally struggle as much with it, but I do see team members who are pretty new to Canada struggle with that. Saying, right. Well, what did I say that was so wrong?
It wasn't what you said, it was how you said
how
it.
You said it, right. So,
that's frustrating though. Yeah.
Yes. So those were some, I think some unexpected, I wouldn't say challenges, but right. Yeah.
Okay, so final question here, and I always end with one like this. If you had some overall advice to offer to new immigrants about getting work in HR, what would that be?
I would say, come with an open mind. Be bold. Be the change you want to see. Be confident in yourself, and like I said before, own your culture, own your accent, and do not be shy to reach out to people. Network on LinkedIn, because that's a professional network, and be open to pursuing further education. So I think that's the best way, and leverage your contacts, talk to people. Mm-hmm. The best way to do it, and something that I missed mentioning in this conversation, is that volunteer. Get out to the community and volunteer. That'll help you hone and sharpen so many skills and truly assimilate into the Canadian culture, which is all about community and supporting each other and being collaborative. So you want to truly experience that and feel like you belong, this is home. Get out into the community and volunteer. I can't stress that.
Thanks, Bina. That was important and hopefully makes a difference for somebody out there. I did an episode on recruitment tips for HR, and that link is right here. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.